Welcome back to Pokemon Episode Summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 113, Hello Pomelo. The episode begins with Ash and the gang on Lapras as they see Pomelo Island in the distance, Pomelo Island being the destination of the Orange League. Ash gets so excited when he sees it that he almost falls off Lapras. Actually, he does, but he's able to get pulled up immediately, just in time to see a mysterious Pokemon fly in the distance. It appears to be a Dragonite, but Ash and the gang are unaware of this fact, as they couldn't see its color. Immediately after arriving on Pomelo Island, Ash and the gang go to the League registration room, where the man there scans Ash's badges to verify that he was in fact ready to challenge the Orange League champion, Drake. With all that confirmed, the man explains to Ash that the battle would be a full 6-on-6 battle, the first that Ash had ever experienced, and that the battle would take place first thing tomorrow at the Grand Pomelo Stadium. Ash knows that this was going to be a tough battle, so he wanted to get in as much training as possible, due to the fact that he really didn't get a whole bunch of training in for the Indigo League. But Misty suggested to him that first they get a tour of the stadium, so Ash knows where he was going to be battling. And to be fair, that was probably pretty smart. The man agrees to show Ash the stadium, which was located inside a large dome. But before they go, Tracy spots some statues of Dragonite in the registration room and wonders why they were there. Then, when they go into the dome, he immediately spots more Dragonite statues and takes interest in these as well, as the man leads them inside. The dome consisted of two places, one, the stadium, and two, the Orange League Hall of Fame, otherwise known as the Palace of Victory. The man decided to show them the Hall of Fame first, where there are many statues of previous Orange League champions Pokemon, as well as both of their footprints. And when Ash looks at the statues, he sees a Poliwhirl, a Venonat, indicating that previous champions had won with these Pokemon. The man emphasizes the importance of this area, as it was meant to immortalize all of the previous trainers who had beat the Orange League, even if they eventually lost their title, stating that not just knowing the current champion, but the legacy was very important. When Ash looks at the footprints, it reminds him of the journey that he's had to get here, thinking of all of his victories in the Orange League gym battles. Tracy then brings the man's attention to the Dragonite statues that were inside the place, and the man explains, as Ash pulls out his Pokedex to analyze the Dragonite statue, that the Dragonite statues were meant to symbolize all of the numerous Dragonite in the oceans surrounding the island that had protected it for some time. This reminded me of all the way back in episode 13, when Ash and the gang went to that lookout place that Bill had, I think, and he wanted to see a Dragonite. Anyways, learning that Dragonite protected the island, Ash and the gang begin to wonder if the Pokemon that they saw earlier was in fact a Dragonite, with the man confirming, though stating that it wasn't one of the ones that protected the island, it was rather the Orange League champion Drake's, adding that it had gone undefeated against any challenger since Drake became champion. Speaking of Drake, he was currently chilling in the stadium portion of the dome with his Dragonite, when suddenly Team Rocket showed up and did their motto, claiming that they wanted to steal Drake's Dragonite. However, Drake wasn't scared by this at all, as he simply had his Dragonite fire a single Hyper Beam, which was enough to send Team Rocket blasting off at Mach speed, because Dragonite was a fucking beast. Meanwhile, at the Pokemon Center, Ash knew that he would have to use all of his 6 on-hand Pokemon in the battle, being Pikachu, Bulbasaur, Squirtle, Charizard, Lapras, and Snorlax, so he sent them all out, even Lapras, who he sent out into a little kiddie pool in the Pokemon Center, and proceeded to train with them all to make sure all their moves were good. He had Pikachu use his electric moves, Bulbasaur use his grass moves, Charizard used Flamethrower, and Lapras simply splashed around in the pool, while Squirtle practiced his water gun. Snorlax, on the other hand, wasn't doing anything, as it wouldn't wake up. Ash asks Nurse Joy about this to see if she would know anything, and Nurse Joy simply reveals that it was because she had just fed it when it got there, so now it would be asleep for quite a few days, meaning that it wouldn't be able to battle in the championship match. Ash was immensely shocked at this, and panicked as he didn't know what to do, but then he realized he could just call upon one of the Pokemon at Oak's lab, so he went up to the Pokemon Center's computer and called Oak, with Oak asking him which of his 3 Pokemon he wanted to use, Kingler, Muk, or one of his Tauros. Ash decided to choose Tauros, claiming that since it hadn't battled before, it may still have beginner's luck, like Muk and Kingler had, since they had won their first battles back at the Indigo League. So, Ash sends over his Snorlax in exchange for Tauros on the Pokeball transporter, and Tauros greets him very happily. Meanwhile, as for Team Rocket, they were still in Pomelo after being blasted off, but they were severely injured, fucking having to walk with sticks at this point. They were complaining their asses off, when suddenly they spotted a car going around that was giving out free admission tickets to the upcoming championship match between Ash and Drake. As a whole bunch of people gladly walk up to the van to get some free tickets, Team Rocket whispers their plan to each other so no one can hear them, although their plan wasn't really that elaborate. They were simply going to wait for whoever this challenger was, not knowing it was Ash, to defeat or severely weaken the Dragonite in battle, and then Team Rocket would swoop in and take it at the last second. The next day, it was finally time for the championship match between Ash and Drake. Ash walked out into the stadium, ready to finally prove that he could win a league, as he shook hands with Drake, as was tradition. After this, the referee then comes up and reveals that only the challenger would be allowed to substitute his Pokemon mid-match. He also reveals that when one trainer lost their first 3 Pokemon, the battle stadium would then change to a different terrain. Or rather, it would change back to the one it was currently on most likely, because the stadium then changed immediately after the referee said this to an area with rocks and a pool. The crowd cheered as the battle began. Even people outside the stadium were watching from the TV screens across the island. Some of these people watching included Team Rocket, who were amazed at the fact that Ash was the challenger, as he sent out his Pikachu first to deal with Drake's first Pokemon being a Ditto. The Ditto instantly transformed into Pikachu, so it was now essentially Pikachu versus Pikachu, and they both started off with a Thunderbolt, with Pikachu using his first and Ditto using his second. They then both go for Thunderbolts yet again, this time at the exact same time. As the thunderbolts collide, this causes a reaction in the stadium, causing it to start caving in on itself, destroying several nearby rocks as the remains of the rocks hit Ash's Pikachu. Ditto, however, is unaffected as it manages to jump from rock to rock like a fucking acrobat. The rocks cause Pikachu to fall to the ground, being severely damaged, leading Ash to get frustrated, but refuse Misty's suggestion of switching out his Pokemon, stating that there was no way that a fake Pikachu could beat the real one. But wasn't the entire point of the Duplica episode, I think that was like episode 37 or whatever, to say that just because a Ditto was fake doesn't mean it was weaker? Come on, we should have at least took that from the filler episode. Anyways, with Pikachu down, Ditto rushes to it by using an agility, and Ash tries to counter this by having Pikachu use Thunderbolt, but unfortunately Ditto was able to dodge being so fast, and Ditto then goes for its own Thunderbolt, but thankfully Pikachu is able to counter this one, as Ash orders it to capture the shock in his tail by using it as a lightning rod. Now I actually really like this strategy, as it shows how a real Pokemon could be better than a Ditto, because a Ditto's trainer likely wouldn't know those super advanced strategies that Ash would regarding his Pokemon. Pikachu and Ditto then both use Quick Attack to run up into the air, where they meet each other and both use one final Thunderbolt. And as the Thunderbolt collides, both Pokemon fall to the ground. They seem to have taken relatively even damage, but Pikachu uses its trick that it had up its sleeve, being the electricity that it still had stored in its tail from that Thunderbolt attack, and he uses this electricity to get really up close to Ditto and shock him, thereby knocking Ditto out and getting Ash the first win, which the referee officially declares. This reassures Ash, who was nervous, that he really could win, although he made sure not to get overconfident like he did in the Indigo League. Tracy then stated how Pikachu must have been able to win since he was in better physical condition. Whoa, no fucking shit, dude. Or Pikachu just used his electric tail to his advantage. I didn't know we were just using our eyes. I get you're a Pokemon watcher, but I expected a more intelligent observation. Anyways, Drake recalls his Ditto and congratulates Ash on the win, as he was genuinely happy that someone was giving him a challenge, as due to being the champion for so long, no one had really stood up to him. Drake then sent out his second Pokemon, stating that his first loss was just a minor setback. This second Pokemon was an Onix. Ash wanted a type advantage, not a disadvantage that Pikachu had, so he called Pikachu back and instead sent out his Squirtle. He immediately has Squirtle use a water move, being Water Gun, but Drake expected Ash to do something like this, so he orders Onix to dodge the attack by digging underground, leaving Squirtle alone on the field. Squirtle was stressing out since Onix could show up at any moment, and Ash was stressing too, not knowing what to do, but he thankfully came up with an idea, being for Squirtle to run into the water, as Onix couldn't burrow its way back up into water. Squirtle panically runs as Ash suggested, but he wasn't fast enough to get to the water before Onix rose up from the ground and hit him into the air, and proceeded to lock him into a bind as Snorlax landed on his rocks. This bind was absolutely wrecking Squirtle, so Ash ordered Squirtle to use Withdraw, so it would only be its shell that took a bit of damage, and while inside its shell, it was able to still fire off a Hydro Pump attack, which severely damaged the Onix, making it unable to do anything even as Drake shouted commands. With the Onix caught off guard, Squirtle was able to escape from the bind and use a Skull Bash, crashing straight into Onix and knocking it out, giving Ash his second win. Squirtle was also immensely tired by this though, so Ash recalled Squirtle, thinking of what Pokemon he should use next. Of course, since Squirtle wasn't knocked out, it was still eligible to battle if Ash wanted to call it out again. Anyways, Drake then sent out his third Pokemon, being a Gengar, punning that there would be no way that Ash could beat Gengar, stating he wouldn't have a ghost of a chance. Haha. Misty and Tracy feared that Drake was right, as Ash had no Pokemon that were good against Drake's Gengar due to it being a ghost type. Ash knows this as well, so he decides to send out Tauros, hoping that he truly would have beginner's luck. He commands Tauros to use Fissure, which causes the ground to shake, almost like an earthquake. However, the Gengar simply avoids this by levitating. It then uses Confuse Ray on Tauros, making it so confused that it begins to bash its head into rocks, not stopping. Ash decides to substitute Tauros back into its Pokeball, since it wasn't doing anything anyway, and instead sends out his Lapras, who immediately jumps into the pool in the center of the stadium and fires a Water Gun, though the Water Gun does absolutely nothing to Gengar. Lapras then tries an Ice Beam, and it's the same situation. Gengar then uses Hypnosis to try and put Lapras to sleep, but Lapras avoids it by diving into the pool. It's able to catch Gengar off guard, as it then jumps out of the pool and fires off a Water Gun, actually being able to do a little bit of damage. Gengar then uses Nightshade, perhaps its most powerful attack, leading Lapras to counter with its most powerful attack, Ice Beam. The two attacks collide, resulting in a huge-ass explosion, and making both trainers unable to see anything, wondering who would win this matchup.